Just go into it, man. You all right with that?
Yeah.
All right, so we're already rolling.
Oh, we're all right, man.
Fucking rolling, man. Hey, Mike, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys.
Thanks for being here. So, so Greenfield's finest.
Yeah. I guess that's what the category I fall under as a human being.
Oh, all right.
The qualifications aren't too high, you know. They don't.
It's Greenfield.
It's Greenfield. They don't ask much. That's for sure.
Hey, man, I got some of that water coming, right?
Yeah, let me get you one. Hold on.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely, dude.
And what is this exactly?
This is Greenfield's finest alkaline water, dude. It's the best alkaline water you can get in Greenfield, sourced in Greenfield. No, it's not really, but we had an idea for like
a fucking garden hose.
It's actually from we got cases of water from somewhere else, peeled the labels off and stuck our own on. But yeah, we did it for like a bit, and then I posted the picture, and then people started hitting me up like, where can I find it? So I just started making shit up and just saying like, it's gonna be sold at all the convenience stores in Greenfield, dude. Like everyone wants it. Meanwhile, the stickers to put on there cost more than anything.
Yeah,
like,
don't get sued by Walmart or some shit, right?
No.
Target,
That's why we're deciding we're not going to sell them.
Greenfield's fine. So, before we talk about, oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. But what is the deal? I sound like Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
What is the deal with online fishing?
Online? Oh, me?
Yeah. What the hell is that?
Well, dude, I got fucking caught up in it. Like during the
you got caught up in online fishing.
During the pandemic, it was like I was just like looking for shit to do, and I went on PlayStation. It was a free game, and I'm like, oh, I'll download it. And I downloaded it, and then like I had this piece of shit rod they gave me, and I was catching these tiny fish. So I
got a rod,
yeah,
like a virtual rod, right?
Yeah, I'm not like in my house like reeling them in.
I had to ask.
So I got the virtual rod, and it's like a piece of shit rod, and I'm not really catching nothing. So I'd like go on YouTube like everyone else does, like how do you catch more fish? And like you got to buy a boat, you got to start. And dude, I spent like probably $300 in like fake fishing equipment and boats because I was
you actually tell people that.
Yeah, dude, I was going nuts at home. I mean, I was still working,
right?
But like I was fortunate enough to be working, but I was like stuck at home. So it'd be like get off work, come home, get off work, come home, and I was like I got into it, and like I don't know, I like lived in this online fishing world where like I made little friends on there, and I had the headset on, and we would go like be like, I'm going to St. Croix tonight, meet me over there, by 8:00 we're gonna go on. So I'm like fishing with these dudes, and I think they're cool, and then shit starts opening back up, and like I go on to fish one night, and I'm like, these dudes fucking suck. Once I got back to society, I realized, like, dude, these dudes are fucking losers, and I'm king loser because I'm the one, like, organizing our little fake tournaments. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And, like, so online fishing is fucking slowly faded out of my life, and my girlfriend's thrilled. But dude, it was...
I would imagine.
It fucking sucked a lot of time out. And a couple bucks out of my pocket, but... got me through the pandemic.
So, in general, how are you doing, man? I mean, we could talk about how that's affected your industry and just broadcasting and comedy and the whole thing. But how are you doing? I
mean, honestly, I'm doing I'm doing well. We luckily, like, I work in the landscaping business, and we're deemed essential. So financially, I didn't take a hit. My girlfriend, her job, she was an essential, but she got unemployment the whole time. So like. Right. Neither one of us got affected financially, but mental health wise, like my anxiety was like through the roof.
Sure.
And like, I felt bad for other people and shit. Like, I mean, I seen people like that weren't used to getting a paycheck, and now they're not because they've been working under the table. They're not bad people, but they just, what I mean? That's just the path they chose, and they're like struggling. And I see my friends losing their fucking businesses, and I'm like, and it's like still going on. It's blowing my mind. I'm like, that part of it's hard. Like I can pretty much like I can deal with what happens with me. It's like I have empathy for others now. Like when I see like my friends who worked their whole lives to buy that bar on the south side, and now they opened it and it's fucking getting shut down. And I'm just like, like what can I do? It's like I ask them that, is there anything I can do? And the podcast, like it was weird. Our numbers crashed. during the
Really?
pandemic. They fucking crashed, and I was like freaking out. Like people just think it sucks.
I wouldn't have predicted that. I would have predicted the opposite.
That's what I thought. So we went and like did some research, and like, you know, we kind of have like, it's almost like a bootleg Barstool Sports type setup, and they were saying how like their numbers crashed, and they're like, that's who, like, you know, the highest platform for us. We're like looking at it, and the dude explained it. He got on there and said people like to listen to us when they're at work and when they're at the gym and when they're driving. They're not doing any of that right now. He said people aren't sitting in the house just listening to podcasts, and I never thought of that. Like, in all my boys and like a lot of the people I talk to, they're like, oh, I love to put the podcast on when I'm on my way to work, or I love to listen to it. They have their little ritual when they listen to it, and that was...
It's like a lifestyle thing.
Yeah, and then now that part of their life is taken away from them. It's like... So we had to shoot the video. We didn't even shoot nothing. We recorded it all through like it was like Zoom but without cameras. You know what I mean? It was all audio. I had dudes like we were hooked up, and it was just fucking terrible because you feed off each other's energy.
Absolutely.
And my boy's in fucking, you know, God knows where, and he's talking. He's in his basement hiding, smoking a bowl so his wife and kids don't see him, and, you know, coughing into the thing. And my other boy's just like, you could tell he's zoning out. And, you know, I'm like, dude, I want to fucking do this. But we were like, we just stay consistent, did every week. And as soon as we were able to get back to a studio, we went back with our buddy Todd DeFazio. And then, like, things just started kind of, like building back. And now it's, like, it's better than I ever thought we were going to do with it. I really didn't know what it was going to happen with it. But it's the numbers and the people that like it. I think you know from having your own show, like, that's the biggest fucking perk. Like, if I'm, like, going down the street in Greenfield and someone stops me and they're like, dude, I got a gear grinder, you know, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, on the show, I go a gear grinder. Why are you going Kogos and they make me give my ID for cigarettes? I'm fucking 52 years old. Like, come on, that's grinding my gears. I'm like, my man, you know, I'm like, this is fucking pretty fun.
Kogos.
Yeah.
That's good. No, I understand what you're saying, especially in regards to when you start. I mean, for me, in the beginning, I mean, I did, you know, I kind of somewhat have an idea where we're somewhat headed now. A little bit. In the beginning, it was just a free-for-all. And you know, you do these shows, and then you're like, is anybody watching?
Right.
Is anybody out there? But then slowly, you know, you realize people do, and it's rewarding. And you can't explain it to someone that doesn't do it.
Right.
But there's something really intrinsically, like, awesome about that, right?
When I check the numbers, like, I'll check them daily, and I'll go on Anchor. That's where we check our podcast listens. And when I see they're going up, like, it just makes me feel good because, like, it's like, wow, this is like all that hard work we've put in for the past 8 months, every week. You know, some of the episodes, they're not all hits, but we fought through it and did it. It's like, it's worth it now because like, I realize that, like, consistency is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Because if you're not consistent, like, I was on a podcast with guys that were super busy, and they were like, they wanted to do the podcast, but they couldn't do it every week. And, like, eventually they just got tired of it. They were like, you know, and then I was like, I kind of wanted to start my own anyway. So,
well, you got to be passionate about it, obviously.
Yeah.
It's like anything else. It's we talked about it off camera. If you have a passion to do something, then you're going to do it.
Right.
And if you don't have it, that's okay.
Right.
But, you know, recognize that. And the consistency thing in most businesses, as I'm sure you know, is the key. But in broadcasting, it's got to be. It's got to be there. Every successful broadcaster or show has consistency.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I come in here tonight and I'm like, holy fuck, I thought I was in, like, it's like NBC Studios.
This Disney World, they wouldn't do this. They wouldn't know what the fuck this is.
But I'll tell you what, dude, I was like really impressed. I'm
Thank you, man. It means a lot.
Yeah, you can tell, like, you did a nice job decorating, and, like, it's hooked up. It feels like it's like got like a cool vibe in here.
Thank you. That's what I'm hoping for. It doesn't have any kind of plan, and believe me, there wasn't any plan outside of, you know, having a 6-pack of beer at the time and just stapling things to the wall. But all I really wanted to do was to have these conversations like we're doing now, and have it like a really cool and cozy place.
Yeah.
I use that word cozy, you know, not the most masculine word in the world.
No.
But I just wanted it to be people can unwind. You know, the word derail has a negative connotation, but I like that because busy, you know what I mean? Like, you're frazzled, then they walk in here, it's like they just let it all out.
Yeah, I mean,
know?
that's what we were doing before. We were just bullshitting, just talking. Like, yeah, it's nice when you're like not in a hurry to go somewhere, when you're not like being forced to do something.
Right.
It's like, that's why I love doing like any podcast, really, especially like, and you know this because like you said with the passion, like, but when I get in there, like I just feel like that's my like, you know, that's my happy place. I mean, obviously, like, I love my girlfriend, everything like that. That's just like something that I didn't know I always wanted to do until I did it.
Right.
You know, and
it's a recurring theme. I hear that from everybody that's in the, I'm going to use the big hip word right now. Everyone that's in the space, in the digital or the podcasting space, they say the same thing. The ones that really I talk to that are on my radar who continually are having success with it and having a lot of fun. Yeah. It's like, I really fucking dig it. I really like it. And that's what keeps me going and doing it. I mean, there's never been one time in 130 episodes, including tonight, that I didn't want to come down here. Yeah. You know, there was a couple times I was tired and I was trying to figure out things in my business part of my life and my family, all that stuff, but I never didn't want to come. Right. You know what I mean? I didn't want to come here. I was ready to come here and do it.
But that's the funniest thing you said, because I know exactly how you feel. Like, I'll be outside, I'll be working all day. It'll get to be 5 o'clock. I'm like, I go home, take a shower, get ready, go to the park, and like up until the point like where I'm about to leave, there's times where I'm like, fuck, tonight is gonna be rough, and you still go. And I mean, so many people in life, those are like the people that succeed, that you still go even if you don't want to go. And then once you go, you're so glad you went, because you're like, fuck, I would have missed that. Yeah. You know, like, how could I have missed that? But you just have to push through those feelings, because someone told me one time, they said, feelings aren't facts. And I'm like,
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is, you know, this term is very popular and it gets bastardized a lot, but, you know, half the battle is showing up. Well, no, you need to show up and then do great work. Yeah. But you'll never get to that work if you don't show up. Right. So you got to get there.
Right. That's 100% true. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a shitty podcast if you don't show up. It's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be pretty fucking lonely. I would have been sitting out front right now, pretty pissed. Like, where the fuck is this guy at?
All right, so comedy for you, like, you know, you're a Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah,
true, right?
Yeah, my whole life.
And did you grow up in Greenfield?
I grew up in Greenfield. We moved there when I was like 7. It was just me and my mom. We moved. That's where she grew up. Right. So she wanted to get out. She was like living by my grandma, but she was like, I want to go to Greenfield, and then took me there because it was weird. All of her friends that she hung out with were either from Oakland or Greenfield, right? And they all stayed, and then they raised their kids there. So now I go there, I don't have any friends, but now all of a sudden, within like a day, I meet all these kids who she knew their parents, you know? Yeah. So it was fucking great, and there was such a large group of kids. Like, I feel like, I mean, like, I didn't have a lot, and we were kind of like, you know, on the low end of things, but like I never felt like I missed out on anything. Right. Like, dude, because we had a great growing up, you know, like kids. I was part of like the last group of kids that we'd go meet up and play basketball or go swimming or do that shit when we were like 10, 11 years old by ourselves.
Actual things.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, the winter we would like, you know, bang out the Nintendo a little bit, but I mean, the summer, it was like, that's what we were doing.
Want to be outside.
Yeah, and then it continued, like, we were like 13, 14, went to older ice. It was like, you know, now you want to try to get pussy, and you're going to barrel parties and drinking like 5 or 6 piss-warm Milwaukee's Best Ices and pissing your pants.
Milwaukee's Best Ice.
Ice. Yeah, that's the 5.9, folks. That's not none of that pussy 5.1 shit. And I remember, like drinking and then like and stuff like that. And we just had a great time, and you know, I can just remember like stories like we laugh about today, like, you know, getting drunk, passing out down there and waking up and you pissed your pants and like laughing about it, and like it was embarrassing at the time, but like to tell you the truth, like, I wouldn't have traded those times for nothing. You know, I mean, my life's. I'm super happy today. I'd rather have my life the way it is instead of pissing my pants. But you know what I mean, like. Those times we had younger were pretty nuts.
So, you are a recovered alcoholic.
Yeah, and addict.
Addict. I didn't know that part about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what the fuck? So, like I said, I pissed my pants when I was 14. What the fuck do you think was going to happen, Eric?
I don't know, but at what point in your life, let me ask you this, at what age were you when you recognized, you know what, I got to get my shit together?
Oh, I mean, dude, by the time I was like 17, I was like 16 working at Minio's in Squirrel Hill.
Yeah.
good people. I worked there. I mean, and like I would like get beer every day after work. I would get beer every day during the school day, and it started being like the thing. There was like a weed crew and a beer crew, and
weed crew
and the brew crew, and I was definitely with the brew crew. But like I wasn't like drinking on the weekends. I was just drinking every day. Like them dudes would smoke a joint, and I would like sneak a 40 in my backpack or a couple cans of beer and hammer them like outside of school, like it was funny. But by the time I was like 17, going to be 18, I drank every day, and like I never thought nothing of it till someone was like, dude, I don't know if we can get beer tonight. And I fucking like snapped. Yeah. You know, I'm like, what the fuck you mean? And they're like, dude, who gives a shit? You know, just don't drink tonight. And like, I didn't realize how ingrained in my life it'd become. Yeah. And I didn't
feel dependent on it. Did it have
yes.
Did it have a hook on you?
Yeah. By the time, especially, you know, I was just drinking. I was terrified of drugs up until I was like 18. And then like I started like hanging out with like different people, and they were doing different stuff, and that's when I like tried cocaine and pain pills, and that's like I don't know, that's when I remember the big pain pill explosion, like when the OxyContin came out, and you know got caught up with that, and like at the time I was working jobs making like $60 a day, so you can't support like a major drug habit on that. So
some
like,
do,
yeah, and I mean I don't know,
I don't know how that's possible, but some do.
But for me, like I was like 18, 19. Like 20, and then like by the time I was like 19, 20, I tried heroin, and then after that, like I was off to the races, and then I ended up in like homeless shelters. Like I remember being in the Washington City Mission, being like 22 years old, and I'm like, fuck, dude, like what am I doing with myself? Like I would always tell myself like I'm gonna get help this time. I would do really good. I was a really good starter, but I would never finish anything, and that was like one of my biggest character defects. Because I would start real good and everything to appease everyone else, but meanwhile inside I still didn't give a shit. You know, I was like, I did it for everyone else, and once that like feeling of I thought you were done being proud of me, I really didn't care if I stayed sober or got high.
Got it.
So I mean, fast forward, like I just went through like 15 years of getting clean, getting high, most of the time being high. And
well, what age were you when you really just said this is enough?
33.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll actually have 5 years sober this Monday, August 31st. And
God bless you, man.
Thank you. Yeah, at that time I was like riding a bicycle to the methadone clinic. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Funny.
It's dude.
You're riding a bicycle to the methadone clinic.
I'm sleeping on my mom's couch. I like stole a bike from somewhere, and then it was like my only form of transportation. So I'm going over to Homewood every day, this Kelly Street methadone clinic, riding a bicycle, and my life is fucking hell. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to the methadone clinic. Sometimes I have a job, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I go to Home Depot and steal power tools. Like I just was like insane. And it was like one day, it was the weirdest shit. Like this girl was like, "Do you want to smoke crack?" And I'm like, "Oh, absolutely. That sounds like a great idea. Let's go smoke some crack." And she was like, "Oh, my fiance's not home." I'm like, "Okay." Like I didn't know where this was going. So we ended up going back to her place, and she ended up like leaving and like to go hook up with like she was like, I guess she was a hooker, you know what I mean? And she was like did her thing and came back, but her fiance came in and he started flipping out and he thought we were hooking up. I'm like, dude, I ain't hooking up with your girl. And he said to her, "Where's your ring?" And she like had sold her engagement ring.
Wow.
That he like just got her, but he was on drugs too. Like, but that right there, they were fighting and I didn't have nowhere to go. And it was like 5 in the afternoon and I was over in Brookline. And I remember I just took a PAP bus down to Mercy Hospital, and I checked myself into detox. It was like, since I was on methadone, they were like, "We're not just going to take you off." And to be honest, when I went down there, I just went there because I had nowhere to go.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, fuck it, at least I have somewhere to stay for 5 days. And they let me out of Mercy Hospital, and I was like, I'm not going to make it. So I took a bus over to Oakland, and I was seriously going to go to Rite Aid and steal a bunch of electric toothbrushes, and I was going to sell them. I don't know what the market is for electric toothbrushes.
Why electric toothbrushes?
Because they were the easiest thing to steal. Like
they were small.
They're small, and some of them were like $100, and you could take them to this one store, and this store would give you like 30. So like I get 5 of $150, and that was the one thing about drugs. Like my life could have been that fucked up. It was, but like as soon as I got high, I felt like not everything was okay. So that's why drugs. That's why they was so easy for me to get addicted. Like
that was your normal.
I got okay with being a piece of shit because like I felt, oh, I'm fine. Like it's okay that I don't know where to live and I'm riding a bike around. And I went in to do it and I seen this chick outside and I started talking to her and then, like, I don't know, I went to Rite Aid and I just, like, I don't know what happened. I just couldn't steal the toothbrushes. And Western Psych was right there, so I went and checked myself in, so I was going to kill myself. And
you told them that story, although that wasn't true. You told them that to get in there.
To get in there. And they ended up sending me to a hospital. And from that hospital...
302 you there, right?
They did.
Immediately.
Right. So they were like, what the fuck? And then it wasn't my first trip there either. They were like, I'm like, dude, this time I'm serious.
Welcome back.
They were like, all right. And they were like, what do you want to do? And I went to... from there, I went to McKeesport Hospital, and from there, I went to Pyramid Altoona. And I remember, like, when I went to Pyramid Altoona, they were like, you can stay on methadone if you just want to get off the Xanax and everything else. And I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. And there was a dude who had been working there for like 2 years who had been clean. He was kind of like, he was just a big-ass dude, but reminded me like a dude from Greenfield. And he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. He was like, you're going to stay on methadone? I'm like, well, yeah. You know, he's like, dude, if you stay on methadone, you're never going to leave this shit whole time. You're going to be stuck in Altoona the rest of your life. No words registered with me for 15 years, but those did. You know, and like, I'm like...
Really?
I'm like, dude, I don't want to... He's like, you don't have to be stuck places anymore. If you build something, it's going to take time. He's like, you can do whatever you want. But I promise you, if you get on methadone right now, if you stay on it, you'll never be able to do what you want again. You'll always be on methadone. So I was like, all right, let me try it. And like I was sick. Everyone who knows that you're sick for a little while, and eventually you start getting better. And that's what happened with me. And I went to a halfway house voluntarily, and from there, like I just got into 12-step programs, like pretty heavy. Got a sponsor, worked the 12 steps. You know, was up there for about a year, and then I made a decision because I had a job opportunity. That was the thing, like because I was doing good. My buddies back home seen that, and like my friends before are still my same friends. They weren't the ones getting high.
Right.
Yeah, they loved me. They just didn't want to see me all fucked up. But once I started doing good, they're like, dude, you can stay with Stutch, and you know, my buddy Stutch was like, you could stay with me, and we got you a job with Maison, and you know, they're starting off pretty high, and like it was more money than I was definitely making. I worked at a GNC warehouse up there, so it was like $8 or $9 an hour. But the thing was, because I was working the 12 steps and I changed my life, like I wasn't miserable. Like it wasn't the amount of money I was making. Like it was like I learned to be like content with I appreciate what you got. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's kind of with me
humility.
Yeah, it's like, fuck, dude, I'll go work for $9 an hour. Because I remember I used to ride a bicycle around and steal electric toothbrushes. You know what I mean? Cuz like, so
you can't make that one up.
No. So I took the job down in Pittsburgh, moved down with my friend, I got a year sober, and then me and my girlfriend met through like some weird circumstances. Like at the time I was like lifting weights and I was, you know, just trying to get laid. So I was taking like creepy shirtless pics like guys do. We throw
Oh, really?
Yeah, we throw
any of those floating on the internet anywhere.
Yeah, there's a couple on some old Facebook pages that are expired. But she was like,
we're all gonna start looking for them now, you know?
But she liked it, and then like I said to my buddy's like, dude, I seen this one chick liked your one picture, and I'm like, who? You know, and he was like, this chick Addie. He was like, I know her. I'm like, yeah, she's kind of hot, dude. He's like, yeah, she is. She's friends with my wife. Like I haven't seen her in a long time. So I sort of like messaged her and then messaged back, and next thing you know, we end up going out to eat, and we've literally been together every day. But I could say there's probably been 5 days in the past 4 years we haven't been together. But like I'm not sick. It's not like, oh, it's like that. Like I still go golf. I still have a life, you know. Mm-hmm. But like at the end of the day, like I always go to sleep next to her, and that's a great feeling. But to like come from fucking being like, you know, when you think like you're a worthless piece of shit and you'll never achieve anything, and you've convinced yourself like you've accepted you're just going to be a drug addict the rest of your life.
A lot of years though, man.
It was. I mean, dude, people were like, I mean, like one way I've looked at like I lost those years, but like I think those years kind of molded me into like the person I am today, because I was an idiot, but like I definitely learned a lot. And like one thing is I don't want to go back. Like I mean, I'm still like in recovery. I'm still sober. I'm still like I don't think it's okay for me to drink. I don't think it's okay if I would go smoke weed. I don't think it's okay for me to take a pill. Like, I know where it leads me to. Back
Right.
stealing toothbrushes. The toothbrush bandit.
Toothbrush bandit. You need to get a shirt with that on.
I should, dude. I tell a joke like hell on stage. No, it was weird because like me and my girlfriend, we were like sitting there, we were together for like 2 years. Remember The Dirt came out, the Motley Crue movie?
Yeah.
Great movie. I loved Motley Crue growing up. And I remember during that movie, they're having the best time ever. They're doing tons of coke, banging millions of chicks.
You live that life.
No, and making all that money.
Part of that life.
Yeah, I lived the drug part. I didn't bang a million chicks or make any money. I know that. But she said to me, she's like, "Oh, I don't want to watch this movie with you." And I'm like, "Why?" And she was like, "Well, it'll remind you when you were getting high. Maybe you want to get high." And I was like, "If it was like this when I was getting high, I would still be getting high. It wasn't like this."
That ain't the gutter.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think Netflix is running a special by a 30-year-old dude who's lived on his mom's couch and rode a bicycle back and forth to the methadone clinic, periodically stopping
Stole
off.
electric toothbrushes.
It's still electric toothbrushes. Like, it's just not that interesting. Like, I'm not the most interesting addict.
That's pretty good though.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Yeah,
There's something to work with.
Yeah, it's just chipping away, man. Just chipping away here.
Well, so did you start really thinking about comedy the moment you got clean?
No, like throughout I'd say the past, like my whole life, people always said to me, like, "Dude, you're like the funniest dude I know." And I mean, I think every neighborhood has that guy, like, "Oh, you're funny." And I never really, but like from being in so many different treatment centers and stuff, like halfway houses especially, because you're with these guys for 6 months,
Right?
And the last one I was in, these dudes were like, "Dude, you fucking should do comedy." And I was like, I always wanted to do it. I really did. Like when I was a young kid, like I remember seeing like Eddie Murphy and watching in Living Keller and Jim Carrey when he did Fire Marshal Bill. Like I'll never forget that on like Sunday nights, like sitting down and watching Living Keller. And I was like, my buddy Croft does comedy. Maybe I'll have to get up with him. And it kind of didn't work. Like it just was like I put it on the back burner. And then when I brought it up down the road to my girlfriend, I was like, Jack's brother Joey is doing a comedy show and asked me if I wanted to be in it. And like, I really want to. I just want to try it once. And she was like, "Go ahead. I think you should." So I, wrote a little 5-minute bit, and I went up there and did my little guest set, and I was like, "All right, man, that was great." Like people laughed and stuff. And then like 2 days later, he was like, "Before you do the next one, you should go hit some open mics." And I'm like,
Right.
"Oh, all right."
So what is that for people that don't?
An open
don't go to shows. What is? Because you hear that a lot.
Yeah, an open mic is like basically like it's compared to like football practice for football players. That's like where you go, you try to work out material. The crowd's not there for comedy. They're more or less like there at the bar chilling. And like if you're good enough, you'll get their attention.
Got it.
But I mean, more than likely, they're probably going to sit there and keep watching Wheel of Fortune, and they're like, or muted soccer. You know what I mean?
Muted soccer.
Yeah. And I went there and I was like, I had these high expectations because the first time I did comedy, all my friends showed up. So it was like, it wasn't that.
Right.
But this time I go to this shithole bar in Homestead, like right by the train tracks.
Which was reality.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I don't know the guys that are comedians. Like, I just got pointed in this direction. I signed up to be on this Facebook page. Now I'm following these people around.
Right.
And I went down there and I just like kind of froze up and I ate a huge bag of dicks. And I was like, and the train started coming. And I'm trying to, like, I can't remember my jokes.
The train was coming.
I'm just like, I'm good, man. I'm good tonight. And the dude was like, so I walk outside and this dude, Chris, came out and like followed me. Like, "Hey man, what's up?" I'm like, "Dude, that was terrible." Like, he's like, "Dude, of course it was. You've been doing comedy for like 48 hours. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen?" But I had unrealistic expectations.
Right, of course.
So
of course.
He said, "Dude, if you really want to get good, you gotta like fight through that next time it happens." And like, there's been so many times at open mics where like you just eat a bag of dicks, but the reward comes like if you ever get an opportunity to be down the Improv or something,
right? Absolutely.
Or even in a neighborhood bar, but. Like I got to do a show New Year's Eve down the Improv. Matt Light show. It was like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you a 10-minute spot." I'm like, "That's fucking awesome." And by that time, I had accumulated like 10 minutes of material, so
Sure.
I was ready for it. And I went up, I did it. A lot of people did come out to see it, but people I didn't know like came up to me afterwards and were like, gave me an attaboy.
Right.
Hey, I thought it was funny, and they'd like refer to something back in the joke. And
It's a tight community though, isn't it?
What's that?
Comedians in general.
Dude, I would say this, like, it's as tight as you want it to be. You know, like if you don't want to fuck with no one, no one's gonna fuck with you. But if you get out there all the time and like you're hanging out with people and you're a good person, like yeah, it can be a great thing. I mean, my experience with the comedians is like fucking I really never had too many problems, but there are some that I talk to a lot more than others.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Natural.
But yeah, and but I would say yeah, it's very if I'm gonna be honest, it's very competitive.
Well, sure it is.
Yeah, it's because you're up there and I mean, like you want them to do good, but you want to do good. You know what I mean? And you start questioning. Like at the beginning, I was like saying, like, did I do better than them? And like I lost what I was doing this for. I started doing it because I always wanted to do it and it was going to be fun. And then I started getting this competitive thing in me, which I had to get rid of because it was a character defect. It was like hurting my creativity. It was just like, why am I so focused on what they're fucking doing?
Right.
You know, they're not out to get me. Like I just gotta like be myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like the best, funniest me I can be is when I'm fucking just myself. You know, and that's like hard to get up there because you're trying
It's a
to.
good lesson in life in general.
Yeah, yeah. But that, like, you know, I made some good friends. I'm still friends with a lot of the guys. You know, some of the women too. You know, I'm like someone like Samantha Bentley and people like her. She's super cool, and it was cool because I've had a lot of those people over to Greenfield because we started doing comedy yesterday. It's like Kid Joey started it. I help him do it now, and we've been putting together like fucking great shows over there. Like we had like I think Matt Light headlined one, Samantha Bentley. Bill Crawford came in headline one. Yeah. And we had some fucking, you know, we hit some home runs over there. Ray Zawadney, do you know Ray Zawadney?
I don't know Ray.
He's a local guy, moved to New York now, but he was good. He came over, he killed it. But it felt good for my friends. It felt like bringing entertainment to my friends.
Right.
It was like a satisfying feeling.
I don't know if I can phrase this right, so I'm just going to fucking say it. Is it a goal of yours? I don't mean to dream.
Yeah.
Is it a goal of yours to take this show on the road? I mean, to get to that level?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Once I did I did that show New Year's Eve, and I did another show at Mount Light. It was called The Dirt Show, and that night was nuts. And there was like strippers down at the Improv, and it was fucking pandemonium. And I was just like I want to be part of this. You know what I mean? Like I want to be I love this. And I was like, I'm gonna work harder, and I'm gonna make it. Like I told myself, like I'm gonna make it. Like, I don't know where I'm gonna make it.
Right.
But I'm gonna make it.
Right.
And I think like it's like an attitude to have like with anything. Like like me and you were talking about before. If you try something and you give it 110% and you go after it, you're gonna see some results. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes they're not exactly the results you wanted, but you're gonna start going up. And sometimes shit just takes time. And I feel like
repetition, man.
Yeah,
and that's hard to explain, especially to a lot of the youth. As I talk down as an older person, but you know, those who don't have the same experience, like in the field that I'm in for business, those who come into that field that really have all the tools, better tools than I had when I was that age. But if they're not willing to put the time in or do repetitive work, because repetition is everything. It isn't even time anymore. You have to be, like you said prior, actively doing it consistently.
You're right.
You have success. In spite of your ineptitude sometimes, you'll have success.
You'll surprise yourself. You really will. And that's like the most rewarding feeling is the and I think a lot of times too, I learned to appreciate the journey. Like, okay, I really want to do this thing at the Improv, but like on my way there working, I know it's in 2 months, you know, like I had it in my head, it's in 2 months, but I'm going to work really hard. And like the shows I was doing leading up to that, and though, like I was just enjoying it, you know, and that night I was a ball of nerves. Understandably, like I think every comedian, like I wasn't like totally comfortable, but once I got up there and I got done, I just felt like wow, like that all that work and all that writing and all like whatever, it was worth it, you know. And
well, sure.
And like I was like, I just had like the best time ever, and I was like, this is something I'd like to do.
The journey in life in general is where the joy is at.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think we all learned that as a kid, right? I mean, there's things that you want, you know, your parents going to buy this for you on Christmas, or something's going to happen, and you lust after this thing, this toy, this pair of close when you get a little older, and you get it, and it's so underwhelming.
Yeah.
It's so underwhelming. The trinket meant nothing, and as an adult, there's trinkets that you like to have, or things you work for, but man, it's the journey.
Dude,
the journey.
Dude, I'll tell you a funny Christmas story. I was like 8 years old, and I wanted a Nintendo. That's all I wrote on the list, Nintendo. And my mom was like, okay. And I come downstairs, and there's a fucking snow shovel wrapped up in a bow. And I'm like...
Snow shovel?
Yeah, and I'm like, what's this? And she was like, don't you remember you said you wanted a snow shovel? I'm like, no, Nintendo. And she was like, well, try the shovel. And I'm like, we live in a fucking apartment building. I can't even shovel nothing. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it was probably like 2 years ago. I'm working outside. I'm working in Greenfield, surprisingly, and I'm digging a hole. And who drives by but my mom? And fucking she leans out the window and she was like, good thing I got you that shovel. So I'm like, if you fucking knew what you got me when I was 8 was going to end up being my fucking career, why don't you give me like a stethoscope or a briefcase or something? You got me a fucking shovel. Now I'm out here digging holes, sweating like a whore in church. What the fuck's the matter with you? Is that the expectations you had for your kid?
Sweating like a whore in church.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in Greenfield, does it?
What's that?
Sweating like a whore in church.
They don't even go to church.
They used to, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of churches in Greenfield. There's a lot of churches in this town you're sitting in now.
There
churches
is.
And bars is all there used to be.
In Greenfield, Greenfield's super small community. I love it. But there's 10 bars and there's 10 churches. I mean, and like, I definitely have been to every bar, but like, I definitely haven't been to every church. We were, but I was raised Catholic, and then I went to Catholic school and stuff like that, and
right.
I had all that experience in my life. But I know the older I got, like I still do like church. I'm not like anti-church. Like I didn't, but I did start going to like a different church. I don't know why. It was like this dude took me. It was when I was in the homeless shelter. The dude took me to a Presbyterian church, and I'm like, it's a little bit different. And like for me, I felt like a little bit more comfortable, and because I was like there, but I felt like I was like part of something, as opposed to just from my experience. I'm not like saying this is how it is, but when I went to Catholic church, I just always got the feeling like I was just sitting there going through the motions, waiting for it to hurry up and be over, and like I didn't get anything. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Just for you,
from my person, yeah. So
right.
I like dug like the Presbyterian church.
Well, I'm sure the Presbyterians are glad to have you.
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely. A little toothbrush thief I am.
I'm sure you repented since then.
Absolutely. Well, that's part of the steps, you know what I mean? Go back and make amends for everything you did wrong. No, I didn't return it.
Is there a toothbrush? Step in there.
You're supposed to right your wrongs as long as you don't harm others.
Yeah.
Make them, so, like, if I would go into a Rite Aid or a Home Depot and be like, listen, man, I fucking stole a bunch of shit. I'm sorry about it. I don't think they'd be understanding. I don't think it would be like, it wouldn't help either one of us really. So I'm just like, fuck it.
You just did it tonight though. See, you did it tonight.
There was a girl.
Let them know officially.
It was funny. There's a girl who does comedy, and she had told another comedian because our uncle came to our show. He goes, oh, I know that guy. She goes, how do you know him? He goes, I used to be he still might be theft prevention at a Kmart. And he was like, yeah, I caught that guy stealing one time. And I was like, well, good, because it was actually twice. No, but I was like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, but he was like, I'm glad he's doing better. He looks like, I'm like, yeah,
The podcast. So, what was the idea behind that? How'd that come about?
Greenfield's Finest Podcast.
Yes.
What happened with that was I was on another podcast with these other guys. Well, actually, let me start where I was Colin Chamberlain, Ray Zawadi, and this guy Seneca Stone. They had a podcast down at the Improv, and it was called Chill Seekers. I was pretty new to comedy. One night I was in an open mic, and I was just bullshitting with Colin, telling fucking stories and he was like, dude, I would love to have you on the podcast. So I'm like, dude, really? Because those dudes are like big dogs to me, I was like, right. Man, especially Ray and Colin. And I'm like, man, fuck yeah. Not just saying it, because I'm just saying, like, those dudes were like so I'm like, yeah, I would love to. So went down there, we caught up, we had a great time, and the dudes who like ran it, they were like, Colin got in my ear, was like, dude, if I wasn't moving to New York, I would like tell you to do your own podcast. I'm like, really? Coming from you? He was like, yeah, dude, name it something like Greenfield's Finest. And I'm like, oh, that'd be fucking sweet. So I got on a podcast with my buddies, and they were like they were like 2 years into it.
Right.
So when I came in and I had these ideas, like if someone came on my podcast, like I'll be honest, I wouldn't be super open-minded to it.
Of course not.
So they were like, dude, if you really want to do all this shit, you try to start your own podcast. So that's what I did. And I called my buddy Jack, because he's like a dude like me. He worked in the service industry forever, got a ton of great stories. He's just a funny dude. And I was like, do you want to do this podcast? He was like, yeah. So I asked my other buddy Yogi. He smokes mad weed and he gambles all the time. So
perfect candidate.
Yeah, he's perfect for what we're trying to get here. And he was like, okay, I'll do it. And then he ended up like he flaked out because he got kids. Like me and Jack don't have kids, so
that happens.
Yeah, he was like, dude, my kid got baseball and everything. I'm like, you know what, dude, fuck that kid's baseball. Give a fuck, fucking, you're done. Nah, but he just couldn't make it all the time. Well, then my other two buddies, the dude I work with, Rosado, this dude Shuley, he like since I started doing comedy, I actually dragged him along too, and now he does stand up.
Okay.
So I was like, dude, you guys want to come on the show and do it? And they're like, all right. And we started with me, Jack, and Yogi. By episode 4, it was me, Jack, Rosado, and Shuley, and that's who it's been ever since. And like we didn't really have a direction. Mm-hmm. I say what we were trying to do was like pick stories off the internet, we'll talk about them, and then stuff that happened in Greenfield. Well, like after 2 weeks, we realized like we ran out of shit to talk about in Greenfield. Okay. Like what the fuck are we doing? And it was kind of like Jack kept sending me funny stories from the internet. I'm like, this is great. And then we came up with segments like what's grinding my gears, and that's like whatever bad happened, like you're bitching about something. Then our brother in arms, which is like anything. Like it's like a couple weeks ago, it was the NBA player who got caught or who got in trouble because he went to the strip club. You know what I mean? Like that's our brother in arms. And then our What Would Greenfield Do segment, which is just fucking, it's pandemonium during that. It's like the weirdest questions, like how many rats would it take to eat you before you got killed? And you're like, fuck, dude. And you got like 4 goofs just sitting around like looking at each other like, I think I can handle like 13. I mean, how big is the rat? And like, it's funny because like, dudes are so comfortable now that it's not like we're on a we're not. Right. It's like pretend like we're not even getting recorded, dude. Because to me, that's when the best shit fucking comes out.
So, are you back to putting everybody in the same room? Because I watched a few shows, but they were Zoom. The last couple months you've been doing it via Zoom.
No, those actually aren't Zoom. The ones. Did you watch a recent one?
No.
Okay, the ones we've been doing, the way that he switched, our producer switched it, so now you can tell we're all in the same.
Confused me. Okay.
It did. It looks like Jack's over here. I'm in.
Right.
But really, me and Jack sit next to each other. So Jack would be like right there, and Shuley and Rosado sit. It's like an L. Sit there. But like the way it's broken down, I see what you're saying now. Like looks like we're in different rooms, but no, dude. As soon as the pandemic broke, like it's kind of here. It was like it was meant to be, but the one dude wasn't comfortable with us coming to the studio yet, and we knew we needed to get back because we're like, dude, we're fucking losing momentum. Like this sucks. We're not good anymore.
The whole world was though.
Yeah, so we were like, we got in touch with. I put something out on Facebook, some feelers one time, and they told me this dude Todd DeFazio. So I like hooked up with him, and then he was like, and dude, I couldn't ask for like a better guy. Like he's super passionate about the podcast, goes above and beyond. He very fair, so like we can actually like afford to do it, and you know, it's just like it all.
He's your producer.
Yeah, he's our producer, and like we're learning social media like as we go. Like none of us had like a huge following, you know. And people said to me like, you should have got someone with a huge following. Like, I get your part, like what you're saying with that, but like. These are guys that I knew were going to show up every week, and like they're like these
grow it together. Right?
It's like, dude, it's like a softball team that never got started. You know what I mean? It's like 4 guys got every Tuesday. These dudes look forward to it. Like you know, like Shuley and Rosado can't wait because they got kids. They're thrilled. They're there at 7. We don't start.
Oh, they got plenty of material too. Come on now.
Right. And they're just like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like the dude Rosado, it's great. Like every gear grinder every week's about his wife. You know what I mean? People was like, we're just like waiting to like find her. Like here's like find her in the backyard or something. You know. But it's funny. It's like a little brotherhood, and we've been able to do cool shit. During the pandemic, we were like feeding senior citizens. We were taking them meals down on Sunday, and like that's like something like I don't know where that came from.
There's material in that too somewhere.
There is. I mean, because like the old, like some of these old ladies, like you get two sides of it. Like my buddy Shuley's drunk, and then he would say shit like, that one old lady's not that bad. So I'm like, you mean the 70-year-old lady who we just gave a fucking little plate of pasta to, you would fuck her? You know, is that where you're going with this? You know, I'm just saying she's not that bad. Like, compared to who? The other 70-year-olds in the building, dude? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But he, we did that, and then, like, I don't know, like, I felt like, man, maybe there's, like, something more, like, this ain't really about me.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, we could.
Something bigger here.
Maybe we could, like, do something, like, to help the community. And then it's, like, we're connected with Hazelwood, and it's, like, maybe we can help other, you know, that's, like, kind of, like, my vision for it, like, yeah, if it's funny and it stays on, like, that's a point. But, like, if you can, like, help some people along the way, like, try to promote a small business, like, we're fortunate enough we have sponsors, but once in a while someone will reach out and be, you know,
absolutely,
like, dude, is there any way you could, like, mention? Absolutely, cuz. You know what I mean? And sometimes we've done shit for people, and they've come back, you know, a month later and been like, dude, we'd like to get a spot on the show. And be like, absolutely. And then now you got a customer, but it's like, I really fucking, like, I never thought when we started that anyone would want a commercial. I mean, have you ever heard the commercials on here?
Yeah,
they're kind of, like, ridiculous, you know?
That's all right, but that's, again, it's new media. There's no rules.
I know, I love it.
I mean, it's, let me ask you this. So you're a little older than I thought you are. So, you know, you remember, I'm going to guess you absolutely remember pre-internet days.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, internet 95, 96, 97, 98 really started to grab a hold. Social media, MySpace, I think, was like 2004.
There was something before that. Remember there was
AOL messengers?
Yeah.
Was that social media?
No.
Like, how did that work? I can't remember.
I remember. I can tell you, we were sitting in one kid in Greenfield had a computer, and we would go to his house, and he would, like, talk to someone, and, like, put something up, and, like, it didn't have a picture, didn't have nothing. It would just say they're stacked. Like, we were like 15, so it would, like, say 15-year-old female California, and be like, okay, and we'd, like, message her, and, like, it could have been a 60-year-old dude. We don't know. He's sitting there.
Highly likely.
He's sitting there like, you know, send me dick pics, and we're like, yeah, she wants to see our cocks, our 15-year-old cocks, and I remember sending those messages through AOL, but, like, yeah, it wasn't social media. It was just, that was the first interaction I ever had with connecting with someone over the internet.
Yeah. They called it AIM or something. AIM message, AIM, or was that part of it? I don't know. I don't think I ever had an AOL account, period.
Yeah, I mean...
But there was Earthlink back then. Earthlink.
What was Earthlink?
Like a domain where you would get an email address, and it'd be like a portal. Like Earthlink was a search browser. There was Alta Vista.
Like Google?
Earthlink, yeah, before Google.
Okay.
That's how you actually searched the web back then. Web crawler was another one. Those
I
were
remember
the browsers.
Yeah.
The names of the company. Alta Vista. What was that? What the fucking name of those things? And then Google just came along and just destroyed them all.
Oh, God.
Just destroyed everything.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, you can argue how much they destroyed and how much they contributed. A little bit of both, probably. But my point is, you remember comedy growing up before the internet age.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you the same question that I've asked every comedian that's been on this show. How do you determine, you know, where the boundary lines are based on performance, if you have any? And I'm not being judgmental when asking that question because I personally don't think there really should be. Unfortunately, society is so uber sensitive and we're so caustic to each other now, you kind of have to have them.
Yeah.
But the spirit of comedy was that there wasn't any. You go back to Pryor and Lenny Bruce and, you know, Red Fox.
Yeah.
Those folks didn't have any.
No, and I'll say this, like, I feel like if you're funny, you can be funny. And, like, and you can nail a joke that, like, there's a guy out there who can say a joke that another guy can't because he knows how to. Like, there's a guy like a Bill Burr who can get up there and say a joke about abortion or something like that. That some guy.
Jeselnik, right?
What's that?
Anthony Jeselnik. That's his Jeselnik. Am I pronouncing that correctly? He's like very coarse. Like that stuff gets over for him.
And those guys can do that. And then, like, if you have someone, it's about your presentation. It's about, like, really how you're coming off if you're a likable guy and you're making some jokes, and you know, you're funny as fuck, and that's just your comedy, and like
Right.
people kind of have a big name like a Bill Burr. I feel like people feel like, even though they don't know him intimately, I feel like they know, like they think like they have an opinion of him.
Yeah.
And if you're at his show, you obviously like him.
So you're saying he could get away with that, but if Jerry Seinfeld went off script and said something horribly coarse,
Right, it would people.
it'd shock people.
It would, and it would be like, what the fuck did Jerry
Okay.
Seinfeld, you know? And it's not because, I just think it's because that's not who he is.
Yeah.
You know, and he's never been that guy.
Doesn't fit the persona.
No, but I mean, like, I see people try stuff in Pittsburgh, and I've seen them fail, and I've seen, you know, I don't, one thing I think is, like, people, yeah, they'll get, there's certain things you shouldn't say, and like, certain things you don't say, but like, I think that, everyone's life experience is different. Mm-hmm. So it's hard, like, it's hard to say, like, what's you know, I think you just go up there, be yourself, try your best, and if, like, you do cross the line, like, that's what the open mics are for.
But what is the line?
I don't know. You know, I think for me, I all my jokes and everything relates to me. Mm-hmm. About me being a drug addict, me being a piece of shit, like, you know, looking for hookers on the internet and things like that. And like,
oh my God, look
yeah,
at hookers on the internet. You glazed right over,
yeah,
right over
yeah.
that. I mean, come on.
But yeah, I mean, that was like one of the greatest things with the internet was like probably like, you know, 7-8 years ago was back pages. I'm like, oh my God, like dudes were like told me about it. I'm like, wait a minute, so I can go on here, click on here, get this number, call this person, and she'll come over and have sex with me for this much money. And they're like, that's exactly how it works. I'm like, I need to hit the Powerball. But I remember like doing shit like, you know, and that's my life experiences.
Right.
Like obviously up until the past 4 years, you know, I don't do that shit now, but like back, like those were my life experiences. But I think if a guy who like wasn't conditioned to usually talking like that, like go up there and just start saying like dumb shit about
it won't go over.
It wouldn't go over, and people be like, that's the main thing. I feel like if it's funny, I think people were a lot more open minded. The people at the shows are a lot more open minded than the people on the internet. So if you say something,
yeah, I get it.
If you say something at a show and you're having fun with the crowd and you make it a joke, I think it's going to go over better. But if you post something and there's no action with it, there's no, you know, you're not they don't see your facial expression. No context. They don't see your facial expressions. It's going to sound like you're a fucking dick.
Right.
You know, so people, like, we've taken that too. Like, of course it's going to sound like shit. Like, some shit's funny, like a meme or something like that. But, you know, I've seen dudes, like, running their jokes on the internet, and it's like, you know, it's just not...
Yeah, it got to have the whole package there. For the delivery has to be, like, a whole package.
Right. So, I mean, I would say, like, for me, yeah, I think that people... this is a question I hear a lot from people. But for me, being as new as I am, like, there really hasn't been anything... Except, actually, there was one thing that people said you should tone back on.
Okay.
It was, I used to go to Asian massage parlors, you know, and like when I...
Do tell.
Yeah. So the first time I went there, like I go in there, I didn't know, I was with this guy who was like a veteran of these. So like you can't really go in as a rookie by yourself.
He's a freaking flyer.
Yeah, he knew what was going on. He schooled me out in the parking lot. Like,
schooled you? How exactly did he school you out in the parking lot?
He said, listen, dude, you're going to go in there. I'm going to pay them. You're going to go back in the room, just get undressed, get totally naked, lay on your stomach. I said, I can handle this. So I do what he says. Chick comes back, and she's like massaging me. And then, like, I don't know. I'm like a little bit, I'm apprehensive. I'm like, do I ask for it or does this happen? And then, like, I started getting like a little gooch massage, you know, like that little space in between your balls and your butthole. And I'm like fucking thrilled, dude. And I'm like, oh man, this is like fantastic. And next thing you know, she like tried to stick, well, she didn't try, she stuck a finger in my butt. And I like jumped up and my asshole clenched it like a Chinese finger trap, and like her finger stuck in my butthole, and she was going like, you know, like, and I'm like, I don't know if I like. It's weird because I started thinking like all this weird shit. Maybe I'm gay. I don't know. I like getting my ass, and it was like, just relax. You just like getting a finger in your ass at the massage parlor. It's not that weird. I had to talk myself off the ledge. But when people told me, they were like, maybe you shouldn't imitate the Asian woman's voice. That could be offensive. And I'm like,
why? It was the reality of the experience.
Yeah, and like that, she really said it, like, you know, like, and like I don't look. I wasn't like, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm just telling a story,
right?
But then I have to think someone else's eyes are like, why, you know, you shouldn't do that.
But why? If they paid them money to come to that comedy club, they knew the environment they were walking into. Am I right?
It was around like right when I first started, and then someone would give me that advice. They said, "Don't." So I kind of like was like,
I get it.
All right, and then like I kind of go around some other guys who, like, I asked them the same question, and these were like guys I really respected,
right? And
they were like, "Dude, just go up and be yourself. You're a good dude. Don't worry about it."
Right.
You know what I mean?
No,
like
I get that.
I think it's a process of working it out. Like, you know, like you're gonna get. I think there's gonna be times if you really have to question something, you know what I mean, then it's fucked up.
Did that person who was offended, did they cost you? Did they bring it to your attention?
They brought it to my attention. They said, you shouldn't do that when you're telling that joke. And I said, oh, I appreciate that. And I said, why? He said, well, it's like making fun of Asians. And I said, and my response
was like, comedy making fun of everybody.
And I
was that comedy. I don't get it.
My response was like, I never even looked at it like that, because like I don't look at people like, you know, that like you're this or that or anything, like, because
you're not
just
labeling people.
Just people, you know, and it's like the lady just talked like that, but I don't know. That was my opinion on it, you know, and I ended up going back to it, you know what I mean, because people were like, and I talked to other people, you know what I mean, who thought it was funny, who were Asian, like, you know what I mean, someone was at a show and, you know what I mean, they happened to come up after the show and we got to be like, it was like this guy and his girlfriend, and they end up like saying they laughed, they liked that part. So it's like, I don't know, it's a fine line. Some people, I don't think you're ever going to be able to go out there. I think go out there, be yourself. If someone gets offended and they talk to you about it, they approach you about it, I think it's okay to talk to them.
Absolutely.
Be like, because I don't want to be the guy like, fuck you, don't tell me what to say. I'd be like, oh man, listen, I don't want to ever ruin someone's night. You know what I mean? That's the last thing. You probably had to get a babysitter. You spent money on drinks. You're having a good time. I'm not here to do that, you know,
but they know where they're going.
Yeah,
that's my argument.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
And you know, I was a little kid, and I can't say my parents had the album, but one of their friends had left a Red Fox album.
Yeah,
in our house, and of course I found it at 9, 10 years old. Right? I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, but you know, could those folks do it today? Could Carlin survive today? Could Lenny Bruce, Red Fox, could early Eddie Murphy, could they make it today?
I like, here's the thing. I think like those guys were so talented, especially early Eddie Murphy. I mean, he was just a star, and like I don't think like his mentality, he was gonna be like, I don't know Eddie Murphy, but it's like I feel like he was gonna be Eddie Murphy no matter what.
He would maneuver the new environment.
Exactly. Okay. And he would, and I think that, yeah, he would have survived. I mean, I think all those guys, I mean, you look back and I just think that the people that are actually going to these comedy shows, from my experience, rarely have I heard anyone say anything about, and I've heard people say some fucked up shit. Mm-hmm. Rarely have I seen someone say, like, I'm never coming back to a show. It's more or less, it got the ideology behind it, because if people would put shit on the internet, people would get pissed about it. Then people would be like, "Oh, you know, you guys are pussies," or whatever. Like, that's what's gonna happen when you put shit on the internet.
Right.
Like, people, if someone wants to, you know what I mean, they can find something wrong with what you're saying. Like, I think, like, for me, like, the best policy, like, I just talk about myself, you know what I mean, and my experiences in life, and say fuck out politics. That's like my two things. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything else, it's like everyone else can have, but like those stories about myself, it's hard to say. It's hard for me you to get offended when I'm talking about me.
So help me understand the landscape now. So you've obviously have watched a lot of comedy, and you've been to a lot of shows. So you've seen samplings of other comedians. Are there politicians out there that are talking politics? Is it part of comedy now? Because I don't know. I don't go to enough stand up to really know that answer.
I mean, you would see. I would definitely hear some stuff. Yeah, at the open, you'd hear that more at the open mics.
But it doesn't go over for the more polished comedians. They stay away from it.
I'd say the majority of the dudes that I know that are doing well stay away from it for sure.
Okay.
The reason, like, I don't know, just for me, because, like, I mean, if you watch the Michael Jordan 30 for 30 The Last Dance, like, when he was saying, like, he played basketball, he didn't take a side. He said because Republicans buy tennis shoes too.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what it is. Like,
of course,
I might say something
it's business
that pisses someone off, and they might decide to unfollow me, and what? No
it's
big.
such a fucked up way to live, though. I mean,
Yeah.
from my vantage point, that we've come as far as a society that
Yeah.
others are worried about losing others' attention
Yeah.
because of politics is just. It's just amazing to me that we care that much about something that really doesn't affect us directly that much.
Well, like my whole thing with like that is it's like I feel like everyone, we've talked about this before, everyone grew up different.
Right.
Everyone comes from a different neighborhood,
course.
different background,
realities.
different schools. So why would we ever think that we were all going to have the same political opinions on everything? And like we don't. And like I just remember like times when people didn't talk about their politics. They just
You
were
remember
like,
those times, huh?
they were
talk about that all the time.
they would just go vote and that would be it. Like
Right.
I'm pro, like I would love to see everybody succeed. You know what I mean? That's like my feelings
You're
on
pro people.
Right. Like I love people. I love when people are doing good. I love like when dudes from Pittsburgh have already made it and like I'm cool. Like I love to see their stories. Like that's what I mean. Like I'm more concerned with them, and I'd rather like pay attention to that or to like, helping my own podcast or fucking coming out here than to like getting in an argument with someone on the internet about politics, because
I got no time for that nonsense.
and you get a lot of shit posting that gets people fired up, and then people stay in that zone of like shit posting. That's like once in a while I'll like come across a positive story and I'll like repost it because like I love hearing good stories. I remember it was weird when all this shit was going on. There was like people were just like arguing with each other with the George Floyd stuff. It was just like it was crazy. And I remember there was this young black kid who saved this baby from like falling off his balcony, and he climbed up the side of a building to do it like Spider-Man.
I think I saw that story.
Yeah, and like I remember I posted that because I'm like, dude, like we need like more shit like this.
There's no question.
Like we're together. Like I live in a pretty diverse neighborhood, and it's like I know on our street, like
I do as well.
there's not like we're never like your kids out there playing. Are you gonna be out here for a second hitting them golf balls? Yeah. Could you keep an eye on? Absolutely. Hey, I'm not gonna be around this weekend. If you see something on my porch, will you grab it? And it's like I never thought that. Like in my mind, I'm like, it can't be this divided. Like we're up here.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
We talked about it. I honestly think that what we see and we hear about, and when I mean hear from media.
Yeah.
I mean media, all media.
Right.
Left, right, center, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you look at all that stuff, all that shit, it still only represents like 1% of the people in the country
Right.
that are doing that stuff, less than 1%
Right.
engaged in those acts.
Right.
Just because 3 people firebomb a courthouse and it gets all this media coverage and it's all over the world,
Right.
those 3 people as the 360 million in this country. I mean, come on, those 3 people don't run the narrative for the rest of us. Shame on us for letting them do it.
Right.
So that's my point.
And like my thing is like different people are gonna get upset about different things, and like if I'm friends with people and they're like, dude, this is a cause, like then I'm like I support you and your cause.
You have the right to be upset about whatever you want to be.
Exactly.
I don't think it's wise for your health, but you're welcome to do it.
But I think that was like where I started seeing it. Like people would get upset about something, other people would get upset that they were upset, and then now it's like, where the fuck are we going with this?
It's crazy.
And I'll be honest, like there's. Like me on Facebook and shit, like there's people I snooze, not because I don't like them or I don't love them. Even people in my own family, it's because they're like posting like political, and I'm just like I don't want to see it. I stopped watching the news, not because I don't give a fuck what's going on in the world. It's because I care what's going on in my fucking street, and I need to have my mind right. Like when I go out there and you know what I mean. I don't want to leave my house affected and having my TV affect the narrative of my day.
Absolutely right.
Because I got like my neighbors, they're the best. You know what I mean? We all get, like, I love where I live at. I live at Whitaker, like Whitaker, Munhall. And, like, dude, it's just like and I don't ever want to, like, have some TV, even though I never was. I just don't want to be, like, thinking, like, well, this guy likes Trump, so he hates us. Or, like, you know what I mean?
Whitaker, Munhall, Larkspur. You know where Larkspur is at?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just down that way.
Where are you? So, yeah, I think, I'll be happy. I'm someone that'll be happy when the election's over for sure, and then we move forward, and you know what I mean? Like, I'll be super happy.
I think, too, the country is so angst-ridden right now because of the pandemic. And and I get it, man. I mean, if I was younger, I probably would have more angst. If my children were young, or I was just having kids, or I was thinking about having kids, as a young person or a young parent, I would be gorked out of my mind now too. And you get to 50 or older, you probably don't take things with the same amount of, you've been around the block a few times, so you may not react to that stuff as a younger person. I get it. I totally get it. I just don't think that fighting with each other is the route to take to get out of it.
I just felt like I remember like when 9/11 happened, and terrible tragedy, and I remember I felt like that was like weird. It was weird because I felt like a lot of people were like coming together, like for something like that, and like that's
that's before social media.
Yeah, I wish, like, you know what I mean, like, I don't know, I feel like there's so many good people out there that I just feel like, I don't know. It just kind of upsets me, like, because I see people fighting that I know. Like, I'll be like, why do they fight? Like, we grew up together. What the fuck are they fighting about on the internet?
Well, they're letting somebody else control what they get passionate about. I mean, if people would really look inside, like you talked about earlier, find out what they're passionate about, that's for themselves, self-interest, and do that, I mean, they would end up being much happier in their activity than just watching the internet and someone else talking about something that they should be passionate about.
Right.
Quit being dictated to.
Yeah.
That's it's just, and I'm not saying I have all the answers. I don't. But I watch and I observe a lot, and I don't understand why we've let other people set the narrative for us, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just weird because, like, if you turn on one station, it's one thing. If you turn on CNN, it's one thing. You turn on Fox, it's another, and it's just like,
and neither one of them are right.
Right. It's like, where's the like? I just wish there was someone like right down the middle. Like, here's what's actually going on, and like
doesn't sell.
That's true, and because news is the highest ratings it's ever got.
It's not news though.
No, it's people are stuck.
It's entertainment.
Yeah, but I mean,
you like sports?
Love sports.
All right. What's your favorite Pittsburgh team? You Steeler fan?
Yeah.
It can't be the Pirates.
No, Steelers.
What that? I don't know what the Pirates are anymore. I was laughing coming in here tonight before you got here. They were like, they lost again or something.
They got a no-hitter thrown against them.
Yeah, that was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
They lost 10-3 today, but I couldn't tell. The game was over, and they were talking about the game, the announcers, but I couldn't tell, based upon their inflection, who won the game.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting. And our player of the game is Jason Stallings or whatever, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe the Pirates actually won one. Unfortunately, they're on the bottom of a 10-3 decision today. But they're doing their best to sell it, man. They're doing their best to sell it to us, but it's garbage. The question about sports came up because, I've said this and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Somehow along the way, my friend, we decided to look at politics like sports. Like, we've picked a side, and now we're so ingrained in that side, and we're going to root for our side, and we're die hard this or we're die hard that. It's like the Yankees and Red Sox, right? The Republicans are the Yankees, and the Democrats the Red Sox, and they hate each other. They hate it now, and the people that are rooting for one or the other are like fighting. They're like,
it never used to be like
hatred. It's like, it's insanity. It's not a sports team. It's a political party, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not intelligent enough like to even comment like when people talk to me about politics. I'm like, I watch a little bit, but it kind of like makes me sick to my stomach thinking like they don't give, like, I feel like they don't give a fuck about us.
Of course not.
So like,
why would
I?
All levels.
Why would I focus any of my energy?
Exactly.
And I didn't. I got to a point during the pandemic where like my girlfriend, I get home from work, and I'm like, we're not. I didn't like put my foot. It wasn't like she was like, but she would like have the news on. She'd be like on her iPad, and I'm like, I can't watch this anymore because it's like every day it was like COVID, this cases, well, and I'm just like, it was just too much.
They're trying to keep everybody at the edge of their seat.
Right.
They want to capture, because think about the avenue, the revenue dollars, the advertising. It's
right.
insane. We're getting played.
Yeah. And
we're getting played, man.
Like you said, though, there'll be like a small story or a small amount, like you said, and they'll announce it, and they'll be like, and it's actually like less than 1% of the country, like that did like some terrible act. But that'll be our front story. They won't say, well, everyone else, there was there was a great, amazing group of people got together and they fed them.
It doesn't sell.
Right.
It doesn't sell. And all the people, what's really interesting is that, I absolutely believe that we need to improve in a lot of ways in this country.
Yeah.
Racism is absolutely, positively a real thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really like the word systemic, but I will not. If someone believes that word applies to it, then that's fine. But it's certainly something that we need to be better at, way better.
Absolutely.
And it's got so many components. My only thing is, and I want to say this because I really believe this, we're letting the term racist or the color of our skin, we're letting the whole thing affect our ability to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Which is insanity.
No
sophisticated or wise person would let any issue keep from having dialogue, because without dialogue we have got nothing.
And I'll tell you what, like, I think, like, the way you say that about that's how I feel, that we're letting our political parties dictate whether we'll be friends. And that actually drives me insane, because I'm like there's like my friends, I could say this, are like split on this, and they're like, we'll be out like golfing and someone will bring, and it's just like, come on.
Why are we talking about it?
Because, and it's the thing. Here's why we're talking about it, because someone will go.
That up. We used to not talk about it.
Someone will go like this, look at their phone. Next thing you know, it got some good news here. Look at their phone, and it's something political. You know what I mean? And it's saying some fucked up. What's that called? Clickbait.
Oh yeah.
You jump on it.
Being played.
But a lot of times I realize when you read the whole article, it's not nearly as bad as that fucking headline is. You know what I mean?
Of course not.
And I'm just like,
of course not, man.
I feel like I'm just being, fed bad news to keep me down, but I don't really. But now I don't do it, so it's like,
all violence to me, I think, is just terrible, and we shouldn't celebrate it. And I think it's good to be aware when it happens. I'm not saying it's not, but it's such a small amount of the total population.
Right.
I mean, life, the world is not on fire. And I say this all the time, but you would think, watching the news, that America's burning. The whole country's on fire. No, we're not. We're not on fire.
There was we had protests here, and I was actually like working, and there was people protesting in Shadyside, and the one day when I seen them, I'm not sure, nothing happened.
Of course not.
I was there.
They were peaceful protests.
They were doing their thing, and a
ton more of that.
But they were then when I went home and watched the news, you would have thought it was World War III, that they were I'm like, dude, I was just drove by there, no one was doing. They were marching. They were literally just marching down Fifth Avenue, and I'm like. And luckily, I was here in a big spray truck, and I just got, past her. I probably had to sit there till they passed, but I was I got through it. But no one was firing bottles at my truck.
Of course not.
And it was just when you turn on some stations, it'll be they're out of control. I'm like, dude, I just fucking seen these people, and then the other side gets fired up, and they're we can't have, they're ruined. Dude, it's just such a mind fuck.
It only takes a handful of people to change the entire news cycle.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
A handful of people to change the entire news cycle and give the impression that the actions of 5 people, the negative actions of 5 people, are reflective of the entire country.
Yeah.
We're that stupid as a people to believe that shit.
Yeah.
Which is just, and again, we're down a rabbit hole, but I just don't think that the world's on fire. It's just not. I didn't have any problem coming down here tonight. There wasn't people shooting me or throwing firebombing my car. I didn't see anyone. With that, but you would believe otherwise.
I think I feel like a lot doing comedy. I feel there is in that I know with certain there's definitely unity. That's one
I would imagine.
And another thing sports. It was upsetting. I love high school sports because that brought. When I was growing up, that brought us kids. It was kids in Greenfield was pretty much all white, and then kids from Hazelwood, they were all black, and we're still cool with these kids today. But it brought us in each other's element.
Absolutely.
But not just to hang out. We learned how to depend on each other and be brothers.
Teammates.
I love those guys, and I think in my head that is a fucking shame if kids don't get to play high school sports, because my experience with it was it brought all of us together.
Absolutely right.
You play football with a guy, you know what I mean, and you see him walking down the hall, and you guys are gonna splow each other up.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now, if we never had that football team, we wouldn't have known each other. We might never have talked.
Absolutely right. And you know, and shame on us adults not enabling our kids to foster those relationships. Now, sometimes it's government doing it, obviously, but every chance, like I know my parents, every chance they had, they made sure that I understood diversity.
Yeah.
And never shied away ever from me participating in diverse crowds, diverse activities. This is where we live. This is what we did. These are our neighbors.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great way to grow up, you know. And so if I was lucky in any way, it was experiencing that. But I'm not alone in that. I mean, it sounds like you grew up in the exact same environment. But not every kid does, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a shame when I think about those kids, because not being able to play, because they put in all that hard work, and then
some are going to play, right? I mean,
I actually think they're playing. And my girlfriend's dad is a high school football coach. He's like retired, but he still helps coach. Mm-hmm. And I believe they're playing now. What the stipulations are, they're pretty strict. Like if one kid gets COVID, the whole team shut down for 2 weeks. So I don't know how that's going to play out. Which I mean, it is what it is. Like, I hope this is over by next season for these kids, and they don't. My thing was, I was thinking, what if you're a kid and you're a senior this year? You had a decent junior year, but you busted your dick after football season. You bulked up. Senior year, you were going to be starting. You were going to have a chance to go somewhere, maybe. And then like now you're not playing. It's like, how do they know to give you a scholarship, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's very difficult, and I hope that the parents are able to go watch the games too. I mean, we've proven the protests were peaceful, and people did it safely for the most part. The protests were safe, so if we can protest safely, we certainly can go watch a high school football game safely as well too.
I agree.
Think so.
Yeah,
and that's where I think a lot of the residents have a big problem from all walks of life with the current governor on this issue about no attending of the sporting events on high school level. I'm not going to argue professional sports.
Right.
I don't know enough to even give you an opinion.
Right.
But parents should be able to see their kids play.
Right. I mean, my whole thing is like, I don't even use like the protest as like a thing like, well, they did it so like we.
Oh, no. I'm saying the argument right now is that we can't go watch the game
kids
because we're not. Oh, I'm not. This isn't a comment on the protests are valid or not. I think they're absolutely valid, but we've proven that we can do it correctly.
Right.
And if we've proven it already 2 months ago when it initially started, we definitely can go see a high school game safely.
Right. And people, I think that like didn't play sports and things like that. I like their voice. Those are voices I see where it's not that important. I'm like thinking, dude, you have no idea. Right. How important that is right now. Like that shit is what brings young men together and young women, because like you know,
absolutely right.
You got like the girls they're active and it gives you something to do. When I was in high school, if I didn't have sports or work, I was drinking.
Right.
That's what I was doing.
Right.
You know, I wasn't a star athlete.
It brings communities together too.
It does. Like, I mean, our neighborhood, like we had a neighborhood football team, Greenfield, and we all played. I mean, like, dude, that was like a big deal on Saturdays to go up there. And it's weird because we would play kids from like Steel Valley, Swissville, you know, and sometimes you even see some of those kids out, and you're like, you don't like hate, you know what I mean? Like, hey, then you just play.
Well, the other thing too, though, is if they can do it safely, you know. It's so vital that the parents and the family have the opportunity to watch these kids. The kids love that.
Right.
It's part of the experience for the kid, too. It absolutely is.
Yeah, you want your mom and dad there if you score a touchdown. I agree. I would like to see that, like, especially if they just do it, like you said, do it safe. Like, we're going to limit it. The parents, the grandparents want to be there.
Of course.
Let the parents and the grandparents come.
Of course. And you know, look. We can go to Home Depot, Walmart, and all that, and we're doing it supposedly safely.
Right.
We're social distancing. We've social distanced in every other aspect of our life.
Like
restaurants.
Right.
And the only reason I brought the protests up is because there's a congregation of a lot of people, but we did it right.
Right.
So we can do this right, too.
I didn't like the fact how, like, the governor came out and he said, I recommend that you guys don't play. My thing was, like, that was such a bow out
Of course it was.
a politician's answer.
He can't lose there. See?
Right, because then it's like if you go ahead, because it's like this. If you know what it is, if you go ahead and play something bad, I mean, some teams. I told you so.
Of course.
So now you got all these people fucking fighting. It's like that's not a leader. Like to me, that's not leadership.
Yeah, that's a whole. We've not had much leadership in this state in regards to the pandemic. But again, it's the first time in how many, it's like
102 years. 102 years.
Think about that.
The old bubonic plague.
That's exactly right. But, dude, this was great. I had a great time.
Did you, man?
I had a great time too.
All right.
So how can they reach you now? And how can they? Besides obviously getting a free bottle of water here, I'm gonna let him plug his podcast too.
Yeah, if you want to find us, you can find us. We're on every platform. If you want to listen to us, Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio. It's under Greenfield's Finest Podcast. Check it out. You can also follow us on Facebook, Greenfield's Finest Podcast, on our fan page, Instagram, Greenfield's Finest Podcast, and our Twitter feed. Type in Greenfield's Finest Podcast, and we need YouTube subscribers. And we're like putting up a bunch of content. It's like 4 guys chilling. It's pretty funny.
It's funny.
We put a lot of work into it. It's not like guys sitting there and there's not a lot of like and it's a fucking full-on conversations. And we're talking about no politics, not like that. It's all silly shit that's happening in America, like throughout the week or the world, wherever. But check it out, and thank you so much for having me, dude.
Dude, this was great. Thank you for coming on. And you're going to be resuming stand-up here as soon as the venues start opening up. Is that right?
Yeah, I did a show two weeks ago.
Okay.
At over in Manchester in a parking lot where Johnny Angel's Gingy stuff.
Yeah.
Gingy stuff.
Gingy, yep.
So I another podcast, you jag off.
I'm very familiar with Rachel and John Chamberlain.
Yeah. And they were like, they put on the show.
Oh yeah.
And then
cool.
I was part of it. It was awesome.
They did the show. John and Rachel did this show.
Oh, did they?
Uh-huh.
And like, dude, to me, it was like I was like, this is nice. And then what they did was they sold tickets for it, and then there was 4 of us there, and they were like, they split the money between the comedians, and it was nice because like I didn't expect anything. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, this is awesome. But I think they're going to continue to do them with different comedians, but that's great. So like, keep your eyes open for that. But
we're starting to slowly open up now, right?
I definitely think it's some of the funniest shit you see is like people sitting outside in parking spots, and it's like restaurants don't give a fuck.
I love it. Have now. I mean, this has got this whole. I mean, I would think that you comedians, are going to come out of this pandemic with a shit ton of material.
I mean, I think a lot of us have the same fucking jokes. If you think about like some of the funniest shit you see, though, is like you'll drive past a little diner and they put up an umbrella and they're taking up 4 parking spots, and now that's a booth. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck you got to do. Like, I support that. I'm like, dude, do what you got to do to stay open.
Yeah, right on. I can't thank you enough, man. This was great.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man.
All right, man. We are out.